now then the one by natural, and the other by voluntary, restriction have come each to greater liberty. This is also a general law of biology. For all development is structuralization, that is, a limitation and specialization of an originally indeterminate protoplasm, which latter may therefore be called free in the definition of a pedant. Of all, seeing that it is the right of the bodily will, for this same reason thou shalt cause full restriction and punishment of any who may seek to limit that freedom for the sake of his own profit or desire or ideal. Every man and every woman hath full right either to grant or to deny the body, as the will speaketh within, this being made custom, the evils of love, which are many, extending to the disturbance not only of body but of mind, and that in obscure paths shall little by little disappear from the face of his unspeakable glory.
Texas will actually look at you as the aggressor, even though I'm the one that attacked you, or if I hit you first. So you understand that?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Jay.
That's how that state runs.
All right. So one person walks up. This is Austin Metcalf. 1v1. Pull out a knife, stab him in the chest. You would say a reasonable person would say that's disproportional, right? Of course, right? Hands to knife. Doesn't really seem like it matches. Incompatible. Okay, cool. Now, we change the scenario to 9 people going against one person. Is it now reasonable to defend yourself? Because 9 people...
Okay, now see what you did is you changed the variable.
Brother, can I finish the question? This is a consistency check, okay? I'm pointing out that if you were to perceive that there's 9 people that are underneath the tent that are all going to do bodily harm on him, it seems reasonable that you're able to use a knife if there's 9 of them. If there's only 1, it doesn't seem reasonable. That's the reason why just hold on. That's the reason why we're having the discussion about who was perceived as being a threat underneath the tent. You said it was irrelevant. I just proved to you like how it's relevant. Okay? This goes into his psychology, what he perceives and what a reasonable person would perceive as a proportional response. Okay? That matters. It's very relevant here. I don't know why you brought it to do the track, but whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, let me respond to that real quickly. Is that now there was another case in Texas. No, there was a young man, but it was another case people were talking about, and it was between this white kid and this Hispanic kid. I believe the white kid's name was Casey, and it was a similar case to the Carmelo Anthony case, except the difference was the Casey kid, I guess he had an issue with this other kid, this Hispanic kid, and they were supposed to fight each other. And I guess after school, they met in the bathroom, and this is where they had their altercation. But in this case, what happened was supposedly the kids who were buddies with the Hispanic kid, they supposedly closed the door to the bathroom and locked it so that the Casey couldn't escape. And so he ended up pulling a knife and stabbing his Hispanic kid. He got manslaughter. Okay, the white kid got manslaughter. Casey, he got manslaughter. He's supposed to do 10 years. But what happened was, I think he did a much shorter sentence because of they said it was good behavior. He had good behavior or something while he was in there. But what happened? See, but that's not the case with Carmelo Anthony. With Carmelo Anthony, they weren't in a bathroom with the door locked. Okay, they were in a tent, and there was a confrontation between them two. No one, or at least the way the evidence was presented, no one prevented Carmelo Anthony's escape. So he didn't have a justification to escalate. So that would have been the the big difference between those two cases.
Yeah, but I mean, like, does that really make a difference? And I'll explain why. If you have a group of people and you're standing in just a complete open field, let's say it's just a straight open field, and you're still in a circle, right, of a group of people that are in close proximity, and the same thing happens. You could run. You could run any which way. You could go 360, it's not going to matter. But the point is that there's going to be, you're still outnumbered. The chances of somebody catching you are going to be much greater, and it seems like the threat is still there. It doesn't matter.
Hey guys. Did I hear me?
Hey G, how you doing? Welcome. We can hear you. How you
Thank you. Hey Law, who testified that no one prevented his escape? Law, are you there? Yes, he's not there anymore. Right after speaking. Okay. I'd like to see what happens when this guy actually does get adequate representation, because that was piss poor legal representation. Period. That was piss poor. I don't know what the outcome is. I don't know how that's going to shape the outcome of the case, good or bad, in between. But I can tell you for a solid fucking fact, that was piss poor representation that kid had. And the first grounds of appeal, I mean, this is why a lot of people don't like to do major crime cases, right? Because the first level of appeal, especially in a murder case, a lot of people, it actually does get automatically appealed in most jurisdictions. And the first is that you had. Did your attorney give you a opportunity act of representation in that matter? I don't believe he did. I think this guy fell well below the fucking line. Well below the line. The concessions that were made were ridiculous, arbitrary, and dumb. I would have never made those concessions for my client. Period. Nor would I have allowed that kid to testify on the stand. I maintain that from day one. I'm not letting that kid testify.
So the thing is Shook testified today that, that's what's going to get him the new trial. He testified, he believes that Shook testified, his attorney had testified that he believed that the information that Carmelo had to defend himself would have given a completely different opportunity for Carmelo Anthony. So, and the other thing I'm going to say too is I was always interested in the fact that the prosecutor and the defense both worked together for years at another law firm.
They were in the same firm?
Yeah, they
Get the
both,
fuck out of here.
They did. They both worked for some I don't remember.
A big box firm, just a random big box firm.
I think it was actually called Shook, Gunter and Worski.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called, which is hilarious. So it was literally like they literally worked together. The firm was literally named after Shook and Worski, the prosecutor and the defense.
Wait, they were partners.
They were they were law partners.
Either they were partners or their fathers were partners.
They were law partners.
Get the fuck out of here. That is completely. You had a lane in there, a wiggle out lane. When I said random big box firm, I don't know if you know what I meant by that. There's large law firms, right, that have 27 associates in it, and if I worked at the same firm as somebody else at a big box firm, there's, hit or miss chance that we're going to actually interact on a meaningful level. You know what I mean? But that's your fucking partner on this case? Hey, yo, what the fuck? That's crazy. Yeah, this guy, law schools are going to teach lessons about this when it comes to adequacy of counsel. It was terrible.
I have to agree with that. I remember hearing from, there's a bunch of women that I followed that went to the court every single day during the trial. They try to get one of the 27 public seats. Well, some of them got in, and the ones when some got in, others didn't, and so they would still congregate outside, and they would wait for the other to come out with the notes, and then they would share notes, and they did this. I have the names. I could back channel. You could find them on Facebook because they're still going to the court. They've been there every single day while it's happening now. And what was interesting is that they had said, somebody was just like, I don't know why he's not, what is it called when you object? That there was like no objections, and then there was even a point where the defense attorney like asked the judge if he could object.
You out your fucking mind.
And no, and the
you
judge,
out your mind.
And the judge was like,
I can't tell you that.
Asking me.
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you if you can or can't.
Exactly. The judge was like, what are you eating? What the?
Meanwhile, we call that pro se shit. That's pro se shit. That's when somebody represents themselves without an attorney. That's pro se shit. That's the type of shit that you expect from them. Judge, can I object to this? And then I snicker to myself while the judge gives him the exact same answer that I gave you. I can't tell you that. Shit. Hey, you should have had a fucking lawyer.
I mean, I'm not sure how common it is for former law partners to end up in the same trial. I don't know if that's a conflict or interest or not. I don't know because potentially if you're on different law firms, it could cause competition. But I mean,
I'm gonna want that client to sign off on that. If they're partners,
I think so
if
too, right?
If there was because, like I said, my analysis changed when you revealed that they were partners, right? If they were associates at the same firm, or if one was an associate and one was a partner, maybe that's a little bit more different, right? But the analysis changes, right, when they were law partners. I'm going to at least need Carmelo or his family, whomever it is, to sign off on that. That's something they need to sign off on.
Yeah, I just feel like I wouldn't want that. No, I just wouldn't want that. I don't want there to be any form or interpersonal history that would cause somebody to or not do something and have all of that. I just wouldn't want that.
Hell no. No, I wouldn't want that. 337.
I guess the judge, they got out and the judge said that he's going to email his decision, that he has to sleep on it. Just now.
Oh, he's deliberating? Okay.
That he's gonna give his answer in an email.
Oh, he's going to issue a ruling. Okay, he's going to issue a written ruling.
Yeah.
Which means he's probably going to. I mean, some unfortunate poor law clerk somewhere is going to have to do a shit ass ton of research tonight over through the weekend. Judge ain't doing it. That might work.
I'm worried. I guess what I'm reading right now is that he announced that he made his decision on the motion for a new trial, but he's not going to announce it in open court. Instead, he's going to
file the bitch electronically.
He's going to send it to the attorneys by email. I don't know. That doesn't sound good. I don't know.
That means he's probably going to issue an opinion with the shit too.
What does that mean? I just got back.
I concur. I don't think that looks good.
That means he's gonna. He's probably likely wants to support his decision with case law. At which point he's not inclined to read the whole damn decision off. He'd rather issue an opinion brief, or a briefed ruling rather. You know, with supported with case law. Blah 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 blah. Right. That's what that means.
I feel like he's doing it because he's in fear of his life.
I'll tell you that. I'll tell you this. That is actually not uncommon.
It's not uncommon?
No, it's not. Hold on. That is not uncommon, which means it can be common. Yes, that is not uncommon. I have had a litany of decisions brought back, and the judge is like, "All right, I'll issue my opinion. I'll issue my order. I'll issue my order." So that's not uncommon. I mean, and that's been from like, the $1 million cases all the way down to the insignificant ejectment cases. I've had judges do that in. That actually is not uncommon. That doesn't shock me, if you see what I'm saying. Oh.
So, Beam, you think this means one way or the other, no new trial?
I don't know. It just doesn't feel.
Let's not say that.
I don't want to say it, but if I had to bet on it, I would. I just have a feeling that it just doesn't. I don't know, but that's with my uneducated opinion. If G is saying that this is common, that might change it. But I feel like
that's not enough to make a determination.
It's just that with something like this, because there's so many emotions, and you know that there's a bunch of people, like everybody in the parking lot, everybody's waiting for this. I don't know. I feel like. I don't know.
No, again, don't worry about that part. That doesn't scare me, nor does it make me excited either. Let me say that part too. That's a two-edged sword there. Neither does it excite me, nor does it scare me, because that is just some common shit. There's really nothing to glean from that, unless you're actually in the courtroom and you saw the judge's emotions, his reactions, some of the questions that he was interjecting back towards the attorneys, because oftentimes the questions, during a motion hearing, the judge will question the attorneys, and drill them on a couple of different points. The questions that the judge drilled the attorneys on can be very instructive. You know what I mean? My dad, 40-year attorney, just retired, right? He would, he got me prepared to go in. One of the things he'd always said is, don't be afraid, don't be shook if the judge is like hitting you and drilling you with a whole bunch of questions left and right. Because most times when they're doing that, they feel like you got a point. And they just want a little ground to stand on. They want to see how strong your foundation is before they lean in your direction. So heavy scrutiny on a person's position, could actually be a positive indicator.
Yeah, well, I feel like with this whole thing, as much attention that has been drawn to this case, from what I could see, I believe that it was Carmelo Anthony's family that kind of failed him in this, because even though I think he got a lot of money in like the crowdfunding, but there was an initial change, and the judge, I believe the first judge that was over his case that actually gave him bail, was a black female, and they allowed it to be changed from her to this other gentleman, the Roach, Judge Roach, who was the one that ended up presiding over the trial. Initially, his family did have a black attorney, and I believe if they had kept their first attorney, they probably would have won.
What does the family have to do with that decision now? Help me out.
It does, because here's why. The family was the one making the decisions. And what you need to understand is that they had all this money. There's supposed to be a decent lawyer is gonna cost you about $20,000. Okay, a lot of people have to put up a house, or they have to put up collateral and stuff like that. The people who go and they get these lawyers who can fight these cases, usually they have a favorable outcome. His family, they took that money and let me finish, bro.
Okay.
This family, they took that money. They bought a second house, which was very questionable because that money was not supposed to be for them to buy a house. That money was supposed to be for Carmelo's legal.
Was that money earmarked?
And it was the crowdfunding money.
Was it earmarked?
I don't know if it was earmarked now, but I know that there was crowdfunding money.
You can't say what it was supposed to go for.
No, it's not about what it was. That was the understanding, is that he needed the money. The people who were donating to him knew he needed it for his legal defense. They weren't giving him that money so his dad can go and buy another house.
Okay.
And then
I'm glad you're back, because you like to make these like conclusory statements. There was one thing that you said earlier that I asked a question to you about, and it didn't appear that you were there, and I don't believe you heard me. Who testified that no one prevented Carmelo's escape?
Well, see, here's the thing: is they were shown. I said no evidence. The way the evidence was presented, they didn't present any evidence that his escape wasn't
okay, I like
prevented.
That's not what I said the first time.
So the way they portrayed it, now maybe if it's in a new trial, they'll portray. But in the last one, that's how it went, and what it was is that could have there were a lot. His defense attorney agreed with the prosecutor to bring Carmelo Anthony up to the stand, which was a horrible blunder, because that was his only way to defend himself. Only way. Yes, it was, because
how many cases have you tried?
If he'd have got up there, he would have been able to at least tell his side of the story. He could have told the jury, hey, this is what happened, and I did this because of that, or he had that chance. By him not going up there, that did a lot of damage to him.
No, it
his
didn't.
fate was
How many are you a lawyer at law?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not up here because I'm a lawyer.
Just say no. God damn, motherfucker, shit, man. Yeah, don't be afraid to answer. Just say no. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to say no. Try it. No, I'm not. I said it for you. No worries. Fuck it. That's a horrible decision to put a 17-year-old non-sophisticated witness on the stand with a seasoned prosecutor with a mountain load of evidence that they're trying to bring upon you. That is a blunder of a decision. I mean, the fucking man hours that would have to go into ensuring that this kid isn't going to get fucked up on that stand or tripped up on that stand is immense. My God. I would assign, for me to sign off on that kid going on that stand,
it's finally time.
I would have to assign a whole fucking attorney with him that started from day fucking one to work with this kid on testifying from day fucking one. It's not just as simple as you get up to stand and tell your story and the jury's like, okay, yeah. There's a whole other fucking attorney who's about to drill the shit out your ass. Do you mean to tell me that 17-year-old, emotionally immature, non-sophisticated witness was going to stand up to a strict scrutiny examination by a prosecutor?
Yeah, well, see, I understand what you're saying, but that still would have been better than not going up there at all, because he could have. And see, here's the thing. I understand cross-examination and stuff like that. I understand that. But they should have. If it had been me, I would have coached him to go up on the stand because that would have been very important. He needs to get his story out. Damn the cross examination.
No, what you need to do.
So that the jury.
Reasonable doubt is. Reasonable doubt is presenting a reasonable scenario that the jury can say, you know what, I can believe that this reasonably happened. I can believe that this also reasonably occurred over here. So that's called reasonable fucking doubt. Okay, did OJ go on the stand? No. Because the attorneys were successful in setting up reasonable doubt. In this circumstance, I would have cross-examined the fucking shit out of that goddamn brother who was standing right next to him. I'd have nailed that motherfucker to the cross on that goddamn stand. And I would have done a lot more than that. And I don't need to put my client on the stand to do that shit. I would, man, it would take some serious convincing and demonstration in front of me, watching him get fucking drilled by me and everybody else in my firm and say, you know, that's some bitch is holding up there. Okay, we statement. One slip up, one mistaken slip up, one misinterpretation of a question opens the door up to a litany of shit.
Yeah, but also if the prosecutor gets up there for their cross-examination and the jurors perceive that the prosecutor is an asshole, they're not going to listen to the prosecutor. It could go either way. It can go either way. Okay, there's that, but that's the whole thing. Is each side gets a chance to present their side of the story. I've seen cases where, you know, there's someone being cross-examined, and then the prosecutor comes up there, or the other comes up there, and if the jury sympathizes with the person that's on the stand, they may not listen to the attorney. They may block the attorney out. They may, remember
that's a terrible.
It's a jury trial. It's what the jury decides. So how they feel about it. That's how it works in our system.
After your client gets on the stand, you can't.
Well, that's your opinion. You know, you entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. We're two different people.
You cannot unring the bell.
I challenge Jim Lanham to come to a 50-minute debate on any topic.
I'm sorry. Let me think. Let me think. How many clients have I ever put on the stand in criminal trial?
Let me think. Dozens over 20 years.
I'm trying.
Can't even think about it.
I don't think I put a single client.
I don't think I put a single.
I'm thinking all the way back now.
I'm looking all the way back in my memories.
I don't think I've ever put a single client on stand to testify.
I didn't think I was a lawyer.
I don't think so.
I didn't think I was a lawyer for a lot of years.
It is a huge.
Consider the bond of a cold climate, how it maketh man a slave. He must have shelter and food with fierce toil. Yet thereby he becometh strong against the elements, and his more force waxeth, so that he is master of such men as live in lands of sun, where bodily needs are satisfied without struggle. Consider also him that willeth to excel in speed or in battle, how he denieth himself the food he craveth, and all pleasures natural to him, putting himself under the harsh order of a trainer, so by this bondage he hath at the last his will. Now then, the one by natural and the other by voluntary restriction have come each to greater liberty. This is also a general law of biology. For all development is structuralization, that is, elicitation and specialization, an originating determinate protoplasm, which latter may therefore be called free. In the definition of a patent, there shall be no property, hearing that. There shall be no property, hearing that. There shall be no property, hearing that. There shall be no property in human flesh,
Every man and every woman hath right indefeasible to give the body for the enjoyment of any other. The exercise of that right shall not be punished either by law or by custom. There shall be no penalty either by loss or curtailment of liberty, of rights, of wealth, or social esteem. But this freedom shall be respected of all, seeing that it is the right of the bodily will. For this same reason thou shalt cause full restriction and punishment of any who may seek to limit that freedom for the sake of his own profit or desire or ideal. Every man and every woman hath full right either to grant or to deny the body, as the will speaketh within. This being made custom, the evils of love, which are many, extending to the disturbance not only of body but of mind, and that in obscure parts, shall little by little disappear from the face of his unspeakable glory. There shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity. Though that art the child of mine own bowels, how shall I write to thee concerning children? For herein is the Gordian knot in our whole rope of wisdom, and it may not be severed by sword, no, not of a greater than Alexander the Two-Horned. And it is a balance like that of the egg, and the violence of a Columbus will but crack the tender shell, which we must first of all preserve. Now sentinel to this fortress standeth a certain paradox of general application, and in this large order I will declare it, so that its particular sense may enlighten thy mind hereafter. And this is the paradox, that there are bonds which lead to slavery and bonds which lead to freedom. All we are bound in many fetters by enwirement, and it is for ourselves in great part to determine whether they shall enslave us or emancipate us. And I will make clear this thesis to thee by the way of illustration. Effort in thy way, yet it is the way of thy will. And I say not even that thou dost well to haste therein, for the whole matter lieth in thy will. And to force thyself against thy nature would be an obstacle to thy passage. But if I urge thee to run, well, this race as an athlete, it is because I have perceived in thy nature that fierce lust and mighty concentration in that will. And I write this letter unto thee, knowing well that thou wilt rejoice exceedingly therein, since it is an expression of thine own will, and it may be a discovery thereof, which thing thou vehemently seekest. I charge thee therefore that thou permit none to tyrannize any but in thought, or to freshen or in any other wise to blaspheme and think liberty of our life and the sight of the great cosmos, or of his vicegerent. And in the little shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity in human blood. There shall be no vanity.
Consider the bond of a cold, clear night, how it maketh man a slave. He must have shelter and food with fierce toil, yet thereby he becometh strong against the elements. And his moral force waxeth, so that he is master of such men as live in lands of sun, where bodily needs are satisfied without struggle.
Consider also him that willeth to excel in speed or in battle, how he denieth himself the food he craveth, and all pleasures natural to him, putting himself under the harsh order of a trainer. So by this bondage he hath, at the last, his will. None the one by natural, and the other by voluntary restriction have come each to greater liberty. This is also a general law of biology, for all development is structuralization, that is, a limitation and specialization of an originally indeterminate protoplasm, which latter may therefore be called free in the definition of a pedant.
There shall be no perverting in flesh. Every man and every woman have a right, in death feasible, to give the body for the enjoyment of any other. The exercise of that right shall not be punished, either by law or by custom. There shall be no penalty, either by loss or curtailment of liberty, of rights, of wealth,
or of social esteem. But this freedom shall be respected of all, seeing that it is the right of the bodily will. For this same reason thou shalt cause full restriction and punishment of any who may seek to limit that freedom for the sake of his own profit, or desire, or ideal. Every man and every woman hath full right either to grant or to deny the body, as the will speaketh within. This being made custom, the evils of love, which are many, extending to the disturbance not only of body, but of mind, and that in obscure paths shall little by little disappear from the face of his unspeakable glory. Though that art the child of mine own bowels, how shall I write to thee concerning children? For herein is the Gordian knot in our whole rope of wisdom, and it may not be severed by sword, no, not of a greater than Alexander the two-horned, and it is a balance like that of the egg, and the violence of a Columbus will but crack the tender shell, which we must first of all preserve.
Now sentinel to this fortress standeth the certain paradox of generoplication, and in this large order I will declare it, so that its particular sense may enlighten thy mind hereafter. And this is the paradox, that there are bonds which lead to slavery, and bonds which lead to freedom. All we are bound in many fetters by environment, and it is for ourselves in great part to determine whether they shall enslave us or emancipate us. And I will make clear this thesis to thee by the way of
nature that fierce, lust and mighty concentration in that well, and I write this letter unto thee, knowing well that thou wilt rejoice exceedingly therein, since it is an expression of thine own will, and it may be a discovery thereof, which thing thou vehemently seekest. I charge thee therefore that omit none to tyrannize any other in thought, or to threaten, or in any other wise to blaspheme the great liberty of our Father, the Son, and the great cosmos, or of his best origins in the
Consider the bond of a cold cremate, how it maketh man a slave. He must have shelter and food with fierce toil, yet thereby he becomes strong against the elements, and his moral force waxeth, so that he is master of such men as live in lands of sun, where bodily needs are satisfied without struggle. Consider also him that willeth to excel in speed or in battle, how he denieth himself the food he craveth, and all pleasures natural to him, putting himself under the harsh order of a trainer. So by this bondage he hath at the last his will. Now then, the one by natural, and the other by voluntary restriction have come each to greater liberty. This is also a general law of biology, for all development is structuralization, that is, a limitation and specialization of an originally indeterminate protoplasm, which latter may therefore be called free in the definition of a pedant. There shall be no property in human flesh. Every man and every woman have right indefeasible to give the body for the enjoyment of any other. The exercise of that right shall not be punished by law or by custom. There shall be no penalty either by loss or curtailment of liberty, of rights, of wealth, of social esteem. But this freedom shall be respected of all, seeing that it is the right of the bodily will. For this same reason thou shalt cause full restriction and punishment of any who may seek to limit that freedom for the sake of his own profit or desire or ideal. Every man and every woman hath full right either to grant or to deny the body, as the will speaketh within. This being made custom, the evils of love, which are many, extending to the disturbance not only of body but of mind, and now in obscure paths shall little by little disappear from the face of his unspeakable glory. Though that art the child of mine in bowls, how shall I write to thee concerning children? For herein is the Gordian yoke in a whole rope of wisdom, and it may not be severed by sword, no, not of a greater than Alexander.
fortress standeth a certain paradox of general application. And in this large order I will declare it, so that its particular sense may enlighten thy mind hereafter. And this is the paradox, that there are bonds which led to slavery, and bonds which lead to freedom. All we are bound in many fetters by environments, and it is for ourselves in great part to determine whether they shall enslave us or emancipate us. And I will make clear this thesis to thee by the way of illustration. In human thought, let each think as he will concerning the universe, but let none seek to impose that thought upon another by any threat of penalty in this world or any other world. Look now, though I enkindle thee to effort in thy way. Thy will, and I say not even that thou dost well to haste therein, for the whole matter lieth in thy will, and to force thyself against thy nature would be an obstacle to thy passage. But if I urge thee to run well this race as an athlete, it is because I have perceived in thy nature the fierce lust and mighty concentration in that will, and I write this letter unto thee knowing well that thou wilt rejoice exceedingly therein, since it is an expression of thine own will, and it may be a discovery thereof, which thing thou vehemently seekest. I charge thee therefore that thou permit none to tyrannize any other in thought, or to threaten, or in any other wise to blaspheme the great deity of our Father, the Son, in the great cosmos, or of his Viceregent. In the little.
Consider the bond of a cold climate, how it make man a slave. He musters shelter and food with fierce toil, that thereby he becomes strong against the elements, and his moral force waxeth, so that he is master of such men as live in lands of sun where bodily needs are satisfied without struggle. Consider also him that willeth to excel in speed or in battle, how he denieth himself the food he craveth, and all pleasures natural to him, putting himself under the harsh order of a trainer, so by this bondage he hath at the last his will. Now then the one by natural, and the other by voluntary restriction have come each to greater liberty. This is also a general law of biology, for all development is structuralization. That is a limitation and specialization of an originally indefinite protoplasm, which latter may therefore be called free in the definition of a patent. that it is the right of the bodily will, for this same reason thou shalt cause full restriction and punishment of any who may seek to limit that freedom for the sake of his own profit or desire or ideal. Every man and every woman hath full right either to grant or to deny the body, as the will speaketh within this being made custom, the evils of love, which are many, extending to the disturbance not only of body but of mind, and that in obscure paths shall little by little disappear from the face of his unspeakable glory.
A well-oiled machine that's moving along. Now, there's always been a degree of corruption. And we all know that because there are just too many people, at the very least, trying to curry favor from people in positions of power in government who can help them. And you're absolutely right. This happens as well on the local level. So it's a question, I think, of degree. But then beyond that, it's a question of whether or not it ought to be investigated, and whether those investigations in the aggregate help the people or just serve as a distraction.
Actually, the question is easily answered.
You have to wait, King. We go one at a time. Sorry about that. But I'll get to you. Don't worry, I will get to you.
Well, you're kind of long-winded, though.
I am.
Because you have an agenda.
I have an agenda. Okay, thank you for pointing it out. If you don't like the way the room is run, then this is not the room for you. I recognize, King, that I have a unique style, perhaps, and that I am not everybody's cup of tea. Apparently, I am not yours, and I will just have to live with that. Somehow, I will shake it off and move on. The point is, I told you the rules, and you did not want to adhere by the rules. I have no idea what your position is, so I didn't remove you from the stage because I disagree with you. And by the way, please back channel me and tell me what my agenda is so that I understand it. Because I didn't realize I had an agenda other than trying to encourage people to discuss a topic.
Gary, I can tell you your agenda. Your agenda is keep the things in perspective, make sure individual, when they come to the stage, we don't have time limit, we talk what we like, we don't argue with each other, you don't agree with me, it's a perfect, and these are the agenda you have. I don't know what to do with you.
I know, I feel so bad for that. Thank you for pointing out. Thank you.
I'm moving to Cuba.
Thank you for that, Alan. Finally, after all these years, Alan's been with me for over 20 years. 26 years now, Alan, we've been doing this.
Exactly. You know, we got old together.
Yeah. Of course, it didn't start on Clubhouse because Clubhouse wasn't around 26 years ago. It started on Pal Talk. But we've been together that long, and you finally figured me out. Took you long enough. Marshall, followed by Scott.
I don't know what they'll investigate, but they're going to investigate the ever-loving daylights out of him. So, stuff about crypto, stuff about him hawking watches, stuff about violating the Emoluments Clause. They'll probably investigate his military actions. They're just going to investigate it all. At least that's my perception anyway.
To what end, then, Marshall? Is there a positive end, or is it just to help create
I think for the ones that genuinely care, oversight is the answer. I think for the people who are, hoping to make hay out of it, they want to embarrass them as much as humanly possible. So,
are there positive aspects of such investigations? Is my first question to you. And my second question is as I pointed out earlier, does this become a seesaw effect depending on who's in power at what time? Is this like our future? One party investigating the other, and then the other investigating the first?
Yes, oversight, and probably yes, with divided government. You will have, in particular, if the Democrats control the House, you will have the power for investigation and subpoena and inquiry found in the House. I hope they don't impeach him. I don't think it's practical or like even advisable. But they're certainly going to do oversight. On the people who genuinely care about the oversight and think he's really genuinely stepped over his bounds, they'll be there. But so will the folks who, want to be Machiavellian and make hay of it all. Right? They're going to exist in the same space at the same time. And I don't know which side of that will win out. I don't know whether the cynical side does or whether the altruistic side, in genuinely trying to oversee and provide a check on a president of an opposing party versus just being an ass is. So we'll see. The Democrats have as many people who can be asses as the Republicans can. So
as a Republican, are you looking forward to these investigations, or do you view them with a degree of trepidation?
I look forward to some of the fact-finding stuff. I don't look forward to the, let's make them look as bad as humanly possible game that will quickly ensue where the whole public...
And let me just ask you one other question. What's not part of this discussion is what Anson refers to as the Great Divide. I'm beginning to believe, based on some of my most recent social media interactions, that we basically have a social media civil war. It's certainly not bloodletting, thank God, but it is gut-wrenching nonetheless that people who have had lifelong relationships are discarding them over politics. That's, to my mind,
I don't think politics is ever worth friendship. If that means you have to put politics to the wayside, do so. Your friendships and your family are more important than that.
Right, so I get that. But I'm just saying that's what's happening in our country. And so I'm wondering whether that should be taken into consideration as a party in control of the House, whether it's the Democrats this time, whether 2 years hence it's the Republicans, whether they ought to take into consideration the effect on the body politic and how it is just helping widen potentially that gap rather than
I think you should play the game not so hard you'll break the board, upend the pieces. Right? The question is, do people have a similar sense of restraint and understanding that you can strain the system past a breaking point? Right? You can certainly break it. The idea is to play with it, bend it, but not break it.
Yeah, I think it's a very delicate balance, and it's really up to us, the citizens, to take whatever information we get and use it in a positive manner. I just am very troubled by how we as so-called adults handle the information that's presented to us, to the point where we discard our relationships with other people and treat people with a lack of respect.
I mean, I think the extreme partisanship makes that oversight, can make that oversight a bit more toxic. When it's not about oversight and it is about partisan gotcha, it just becomes that much more toxic on the rest of the population.
Of course, if this occurs, that the Democrats do wrestle control of the House, and if it occurs that these committee hearings are held and investigations are launched, people who tend to be supportive of the Democrats will say this is oversight, and people who tend to be supportive of the Republicans will say that will say that this is what, as you put it, gotchanism. Gotchanism.
And I'm sure there will be a combination of actual oversight and genuine witch hunt.
Yeah.
And the witch hunt will be sponsored and pushed on by extra partisanship.
But here's the good news, Marshall. It will then fall upon the good people of the Critical Thinking Forum to suss it all out for the rest of humanity. So, we have a responsibility, and I know that we will live up to the challenge, Marshall. We in the Critical Thinking Forum. Thank you, Marshall. We'll go to Scott, followed by Les.
All right, here we are. Can you hear me okay, Gary?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Gary, yeah. Okay, I'm just doing something here. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, I obviously the Democrats are going to do some investigating. There'll be. It's interesting. I was reading something that one of the things they were saying was that with some of the business stuff like Apple and Alphabet and Palantir and Blackstone and BlackRock, that they'll report that they'll investigate the businesses, right? That on the business ends, because then the executive privilege stuff can't be sort of thrown down and all the obfuscation can happen. But so that was kind of interesting. So yeah, they're gonna obviously look at the family business and financial interests, including the foreign investments and the cryptocurrency and the government contracts and spending. The sort of relationship to wealthy individuals, the stuff, all the pay to play stuff, the potential abuses of federal power, the crazy stuff about, oh gosh, was it yesterday in the room somebody made the point that Trump's invested in detention centers and making money by detaining people? Yeah. That's just crazy. I mean, this is just insane. So yeah, I think that it will be partisan and zealous, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, again, I've said this a million times. The founders imagined that we would have enough ambition and enough interest in the powers of the branches that it wouldn't require partisanship to do oversight, that the branches themselves would be jealous for power, each other's power and its own power. That doesn't work, we see, right? I mean, what happens is when you have one party government, there is an oversight, or very rarely oversight. So yeah, it will be partisan, but it's the only kind of oversight we're going to get of an administration that desperately needs it, right? And this is the way our system works now. It's sad that it works this way, but we only get oversight that's partisan. So, I mean, maybe this is the argument for divided government. I don't know. It's less efficient, but you do get more accountability. And I wish we got accountability without divided government, but I wish we could get things done and have a government that functions with integrity. It doesn't seem like we're often capable of that. So yeah, I think that yeah, I mean, it would be. I hope it's not. I hope the Democrats are not as tawdry, as vile, as vitriolic as Trump is. Just my own. I'd like my own team to. I'd like a little bit of Michelle.
Oh, just you wait, Scott. It'll reach all new lows. I promise you. Justin, you don't think it can? It'll collapse.
Mike, please. Thank you.
Probably so. But yeah, I mean, I wish we had a little more Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. But I think that's probably a little overly optimistic. But yeah, if that's what we have to take, if we have to take some ugly partisanship to get real accountability, it's probably a price worth paying. But,
well, you said the founders envisioned one thing, but it's not working out. But it did in the past. Nixon was not removed from office by the Democrats. Nixon was removed from office by his own party leaders who came and visited him at the Oval Office and said, "Mr. President, it's time for you to leave." And he understood that and he left.
And he knew he would have lost, right? He knew he would have lost that.
Right,
If Nixon
but
had Fox News, he could have fought it.
Well, the point is, yes, so the landscape has changed tremendously, obviously. We have cable news, we have the internet, and that helps feed the change. But I don't think that the founders miscalculated. The problem is maybe less the people in government and more the constituency. You know, they reflect the will of the constituency. If there was this groundswell in the among the constituents for a different attitude toward this than we have, then they would probably act with a different demeanor, Scott.
I mean, I think there's some of that, right? There's some of this, we say we want compromise. We say we want conciliatory working across the aisle.
We say here in the Critical Thinking Forum, but if you...
No, but I mean, voters often say, depending on the poll, right? But yet voters tend to vote for firebrands, right? They tend to vote for the AOCs. They tend to not vote for the Joe. You compare the firebrands to the folks who are, the Fettermans or the people that are sort of in the middle, or at least have this sort of independent spirit, conciliatory spirit. They're, which ones have the majority. The other problem, I think, is that everything goes to the executive branch, right? We look to the president to do everything. So when your guy's in office, or gal, hopefully one day it'll be gal, you say to them, go and just get everything done you can, and we've freighted everything over to the executive branch. And so I think there's a combination of things, but I think, like I said, the founders imagined that the branches would be independent and would want their authority and respective space and boundaries, respected. That's just not the case, right? It just does not work when there's one party government. It's just seldom. Again, you put Nixon was an exception, right? I mean, because he was really guilty. But in general, I think the only way we really get decent oversight is divided government.
Scott, when the founders created this system and when they foresaw that there would be jealousy between the three branches and that would serve as a check and balance one upon the other, they did not write into the Constitution that there would be two parties.
No, of course not. But that's what it's evolved into, right?
Right. And that's
you also can't find any expression of Republican sentiment or a democratic democracy sentiment without a sense of faction. Faction always develops. There's not a proto form of democracy or republic you can think of that doesn't also have its own faction. Washington warned against it, but it's the natural tendency of humans to form faction.
You mean you're saying that we are wired to be into tribalism?
We are biologically wired to set ourselves up in groups. Yes.
Madison thought to some degree, right, the size and scope of the original republic would mitigate it because you'd have so many factions, right? Because it was so sizable that you have that would make the factionism more manageable, right? But yeah, of course the founders didn't envision this problem. But this is what we have, right? We have a partisan system, which, yeah, I mean, it's not great. I mean, some days I think I'm envious of people in a Westminster parliamentary system, right? We just win a majority and run the table until people are tired of you. And then the other party gets to govern, right? And it has fewer checks for minorities. It's in some ways more efficient, but our system is different, right? And so our system, unfortunately, seems to require divided government to work, to actually function the way the founders wanted it.
The best part of the Westminster parliamentary system are the backbenchers. Oh, I love it. It's exciting. Okay, it's fun to watch. Billy followed by William.
Hello, gentlemen and ladies.
That's a great start. See how he started, Scott and Marshall, with gentlemen and ladies.
Yeah, but it's gonna go
excellent,
downhill.
Billy. Excellent.
It's
Whether
going
it's true
downhill
or
from
not,
here.
it is greatly appreciated.
It's going downhill from here, believe me. Do I want it investigated? For example, when someone says to his IRS, I don't want to be investigated. I don't want me or my family ever to have any of our taxes to be audited ever again. That is something only a criminal would ask for. Yes or no? What do you think?
Well, nobody wants to be audited. Billy, you don't want to be audited, and neither do I. And
I absolutely want to be audited. I pay my taxes.
I don't want to be audited. Screw that.
Here. Only a thief says don't audit me. Only a thief.
No, I said don't audit me because it involves like far too much participation on my part. If you audit somebody, you have to go back and you have to get all of their like original records. I only know this. My parents went through it. Right? Like it's an incredible inconvenience on the person being asked.
My time. If we're being realistic, we understand that when someone is caught selling pardons to people who, are criminally engaging in crypto trades that are dishonest, who steal from Medicare, when someone, says, I'm taking this dictator because he's a drug dealer, while letting another dictator have a pardon after selling billions of cocaine into this country, we have a criminal as president. Should we not investigate him? Should we not investigate why a person who would assume to lead the Department of Justice takes a criminal like Ghislaine Maxwell, a rapist, and gives her a better situation, a better prison? What's that all about? Maybe we should be investigating. I really don't want to live in a world where if you have lots of money and power, you get to rape little girls. I think we should investigate.
Okay, let me just be very cautious about this. We're not accusing the president of raping little girls.
I am.
Well,
Let's be clear about that.
that I can't allow on the stage. There's no you could suspect anything you want. There's no facts and evidence of that, and there's been no charges of criminality with regard to that. And you have to understand that even though he's the president of the United States and the bar for slander is very high for a public figure, especially the president, that can get you in trouble, and I'm going to protect you from getting into trouble by removing you from the stage. I can't undo the bell that was rung, but I can protect you from further self-incrimination. Look, your first question and your second question were not the same. Your first question is, if a person doesn't want to be audited, then he must be a criminal. So I guess if a person takes the Fifth Amendment, he must be a criminal because he's trying to hide something. Nobody wants to be audited. It's time-consuming. It's expensive. It causes for there to be pressure put on a person. They have to set aside their daily activities because they have to deal with this now. It doesn't mean that they're a criminal because they don't want to be audited. Now,
it's not like it takes 10 minutes out of your day. This is literally hours of putting together records.
And it costly. It's costly.
Audited my parents. They made my dad pull boxes and boxes and boxes out of storage and spend 6 to 8 months searching through boxes to find just the right piece of paper to satisfy the IRS, who ended up telling them they didn't own the money that they audited them for to begin with. So I have a very skeptical relationship with the people that do our taxing. You can't avoid it, but like, it's not somebody who doesn't want an audit is not therefore somebody who's a criminal.
Right. Now, the second point that he made about the importance, given the way this president conducts himself, of a congressional investigation or congressional investigations into the various things that he raised up until the time that he made an accusation that I cannot allow on the stage. Those are legitimate arguments. All the things that he said were true. These are things that are matter of fact that have occurred and are occurring in our society. The pardoning, the cryptocurrency, et cetera, and so his point that he was trying to make, that he believes that is a reason why he supports the the investigation of the president following the midterm elections, should the Democrats regain control of the House. I get that argument. It's a legitimate argument to make. William, followed by David.
Let's start with the emoluments clause. Emoluments clause violations are things that not one person on this stage or any audience can deny have taken place. It's been so blatant, right in front of your faces. Emoluments clause, what is that supposed to protect us for? It's supposed to protect us from undue influence of kings, sultans, emirs, foreign leaders, monarchs, and other influences that can come from abroad. There's a foreign emoluments clause and a domestic one, but I'm sticking with the foreign. The Qatari bribe jet, right in front of everybody's faces. There is no way that doesn't violate the emoluments clause of the Constitution. Now, if you believe in the Constitution, if you want to uphold the Constitution, if you believe in rule of law, if you want to be governed in a rule of law country that is under the Constitution and laws, then yeah, maybe investigations are a good thing. So that's just to start with. That's just one.
Especially William, now that the Supreme Court has ruled that a president is indemnified from prosecution if what the president did was in his duties as president of the United States. So the only thing left, if in fact a president violates that clause or anything else,
the Constitution
can I finish? I'm supporting you. You shouldn't be interrupting me anyway, but especially when I'm supporting your point, is congressional oversight. I don't see any other way to hold, at this point, a president in check, should the president be suspected of violating any law, because he is indemnified.
Well,
I guess
more.
the example that was stupidly, in my opinion, used on my social media the other day, the shooting of somebody on Fifth Avenue because he made that dumb remark that he could get away with shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue. I don't think that would apply, because that wouldn't be in his duties as president of the United States, and it would be in the hands of the Manhattan DA, not his Justice Department. But at any rate, I'm underscoring your point that if a president were to violate a law or a clause in the Constitution, I think, based on my understanding, the only counterbalance to that is congressional oversight. There's no legal oversight.
Well, let me go on.
Wait, before you go on. Am I correct about that? You're an attorney.
Is there a way? No, there's no action at law in a civil court for an American citizen to file a lawsuit to say, no, Mr. President, you're shoving money.
Or criminal complaint.
It's not a criminal violation. Well, maybe bribery is, and that's why I want to get to my next point. So if you create a vehicle, what's this crypto company called? One of them is called Liberty Financial or something, where you've created a vehicle so that people who want to curry favor with can just shove money into your pockets. I mean, just shovel money into your pockets. So the Qataris wanted to get access to some sort of microprocessor that we were keeping secure because we didn't want to have that level of advancement. They wanted to have the microprocessor so that they could run their own AI data centers or whatever they wanted to do with it, and it was forbidden to them before. But they shoveled enough money into the Trump cryptocurrency that all of a sudden Trump says, I don't want to care about the national security. I don't care about that end of it. No, let me get you those microprocessors. And so they did. So those are just two blatant examples. And do we need congressional oversight, whether it's in the form of an impeachment inquiry or not, to unearth that? Yeah, I think we do. I think we need to flesh those things out. I think there's a lot of evidence. There's enough prima facie evidence that if it was a crime, you would be able to get a warrant. But at least the Congress can exercise oversight to flesh those things out and try to make the president live within the law for breaking laws which are not part of his official duties. Granted, the president is above the law. This president is given permission to break the law that no other president ever needed. But this one has permission to break the law as long as he does so within his official capacity for official duties.
Is taking bribes? Are the hearings going to be held on closed circuit season? And they're going to be put on Fox News, MS Now, and CNN? Because the answer to that signals serious. The opposition would be about oversight.
I don't see any reason not to have public hearings.
Televised for Fox News, then they're not serious about it.
No.
They want it done with something, and they want it done so people can take snapshots for their campaigns.
Let me respond to that.
I'll tell you.
Let me just respond to that briefly.
How do you reach that conclusion? Hold on a second, Wayne. Hold on a second, Wayne, please. How do you reach that conclusion, Marshall? So you're saying that the transparency of coverage of important congressional hearings is less important than the fact that they can make political hay out of it? Obviously, whenever there are congressional hearings,
as just a matter of course, when it's put on cable news, it
doesn't have to be on cable news.
It's meant for public consumption, like Gladiators.
When the only cameras,
if it's on C-SPAN,
right,
it's boring. And if it's
boring, that's not true.
Then that's not real oversight.
Can I just reply?
Hold on a second, William.
If it's gotcha questions and one political zinger after another, that's not actual oversight. The Republicans pioneered that under Obama. It's not actual oversight. It's just making political hay. And this is the thing I was talking about, where you'll have true people who want to do oversight, who are willing to take it behind closed doors or willing to make it boring, and then the people who want to sensationalize it and put it on cable news for everybody to consume and treat like gladiators. And
okay, wait a minute. Did you just make the recommendation? Did you just make the recommendation that this kind of oversight should be done behind closed doors?
That it should be done in view of C-SPAN cameras and should be, when needed, done behind closed doors, and particularly if it involves classified or sensitive governmental information.
What that William brought up is classified or sensitive government information, or any of what Raskin and Garcia brought up in the article?
I didn't say that stuff. He said was classified information. What I am saying is the tendency over the last 20 years has been to indict people in the court of public opinion when they do hearings on cable news. Very rarely are the cable news shown hearings substantive, fact-finding, oversight missions. Because in a lot of ways, you need to be able to answer in a way that you wouldn't if you were sitting on national television. You need to, it's part of the reason the Constitutional Convention was private, because people in true oversight need to say that. Then you produce a report and you submit it to the public. But the gamification through cable news of this kind of stuff is not good for us. It's like eating pork rinds and being surprised that we're fat.
So you're.
Can I get a one sentence response, please?
So you are arguing against the argument that I might make that it is in the public interest to know what the oversight committees are doing with regard to the administration. I think I'm one who believes
I think it's explicitly in the public interest. I just think the information transmitted to the public should be presented in a boring fashion, which is why I said C-SPAN.
Why?
Because when it's sensationalized, it has the tendency to make campaign commercials and not actual policy in the last 20-ish years. That's been the result.
Well, I think if you really go back and look at some of the C-SPAN hearings, when there are no CNN, MS Now,
I'm not saying they can't be fiery. I'm saying C-SPAN for me is a stand-in for boring.
Maybe if they
normal, all facts presented, no kind of gamification of the hearing, right? Now, I'm complaining about something that's never going to stop. I mean, it's going to happen whether I like it or not. I'm just saying I don't think it's healthy to gamify it on cable news in the way we do. It's why I would rather it be boring. If it's boring, then people actually have to pay attention to the ideas. If it's sensational, they pay attention to the emotion.
So Marshall, chicken and egg, which came first? The boring topic? So if you have a boring topic and suddenly CNN decides, let's cover this boring topic. Let's talk about corn futures. We're going to have a hearing in the agriculture or something. Let me finish asking before you respond. They have a subcommittee hearing on corn futures. They're holding out there in Iowa. And CNN says, you know what? Let's go cover this. It's going to suddenly become this fiery discussion? Or is it possible, Marshall, that of course the cable companies, the print media, the radio media, the web media are going to be attracted to topics that tend to be contentious and exciting to cover?
Yeah, it leads. As I said a minute ago, the thing that I don't want to happen is going to happen. There's going to be a section of Democrats that are genuinely interested in oversight and will do the oversight. There will also be a section of Democrats who will vie to have that stuff put on television for no better reason than campaign commercials. And I'm saying the campaign commercials.
Okay, you made the point, and I guess we will agree to disagree on the point. I don't understand even why the point was made, but I hear your point of view, and there are probably others that feel. So you're saying that these hearings are going to be performative and not with the intent of alerting the American public to what's going on with this particular administration.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying They
Okay.
tend
Okay.
when not to be performative.
Okay. William, go ahead.
Marshall, the reason we have almost all judicial proceedings, which is analogous, open to the public, is because that avoids them being a star chamber. So that there is a utility, there is a value, and regardless of whether or not you like the way that the participants are acting, and the public can judge that for themselves, but there's a value to having it open to the public. There's a value to the transparency, especially when you're dealing with matters of public corruption. And you know,
I'm not saying there's not an importance in transparency and noting to the public what's corrupt and what's not corrupt. That's not my point. I think over 50% of the time, these hearings are used to grandstand. They're not used to inform. And what's the point of putting the truth out there if what the truth is then used for is some twisted agenda of some weird political mind who wants to get a one-up on their opponent? Now, I'm not saying don't expose the information. Expose the information. I'm just saying
you can either have
when government is boring, then the truly sensational stuff, like the tawdriness of the president hawking watches out of the White House, like that, right? When it's not all rah, 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 then the truly insane stuff can take center stage, and it's not overly performative. It is, this is some wild behavior that we think is bad and shouldn't happen. But if it's used to gamify, then you sacrifice the ability to truly hold somebody accountable to the political whims of a future election.
Maybe
I don't know how you get between the two.
As you said, it's going to happen. We're going to move on from this particular point of the discussion, but I will say that maybe it is beneficial to alert the public in a partisan manner that causes them to vote for people who will not abide by these kinds of activities if people find that these kinds of activities that are being exposed are inappropriate. Maybe it's a good tactic in that regard. But William, go on to your original point, not about whether these meetings should be held publicly or not.
There have been various kinds of corruption, self-enrichment, things that really should be aired to the public, and the action, the activity of actually airing them might actually curtail, because we got 2 years and 5 months more of this. It might curtail the ongoing abuses of power, and so that you know, it might have a chilling effect to tamp down some of the corruption. It could or it could not. As you pointed out, he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue in his mind, and he's good. So he won't lose his base that way. But I think you know, the insider trading, the manipulation of the stock market, the timed announcements after he's made taking large positions in oil or gold or you know, whatever the commodities are, you know, those things really should be investigated, and that's the kind of thing that talented lawyers like some of the people that we have in Congress can get into and flesh out in a public way, and maybe even if it doesn't dissuade Trump, maybe it will dissuade others from criminal conduct. So I think there's utility in it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, William. Thank you. We'll go to David, followed by Adam.
Yeah, it's great. Nice to be up on stage, Gary. Following William's good comments. Yeah, I don't know about a performative, you know, the hearings, I think raising page to the Democrats. I think what we have here, Gary, is one of the most egregious affronts to the executive branch's behavior that we've ever seen. I mean, recall our founding fathers, going back to that early part of the discussion, they studied the Roman Empire. They studied how to build a republic around what happened there. And one of their main concerns was these Caesar-like figures that emerged out of the republic with all of their attendant corruption and grift and hubris and all of that brought the republic down on some level. We see similar behavior in Trump. And I think, if nothing more, Gary, we owe it to our founding fathers to hold this behavior to account, wherein the law has been broken, where he's gained his position in the executive branch. I mean, there's a lot of people involved too, Gary. There's a lot of actors and players who gave license to this behavior. When he tells the SEC to stand down on his crypto, well, the House is going to bring those folks forward and say, hey, what happened? What were the discussions? How is it that all of a sudden your watchdog policies were just neutered by this president? They're going to have to bring up how many people lost money. Apparently, there's billions of dollars that the common man and women also lost in his grip. We're seeing his ability to do an end run around banking policies. He's trying to set up his own bank in this country with his sons at the helm of this stuff. So there's a lot of things here. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Gary, Trump got into office. He said, my 4-year clock is ticking. I'm not going to make the same mistakes I made in my first term. I'm going to set about and go to work to enrich myself as massively as I can. And that's exactly what he's done here. So either the American people want to understand and know how he pulled that off and what levers of power he abused to get to that level of wealth, and what institutions in our own government were compromised, and why were they compromised, and who are the folks that allowed them to be compromised? What congressional members and staff members also looked the other way? I mean, this is the Roman Politburo where it's like, okay, Caesar, you can do whatever the hell you want. Just make sure we get ours. Make sure we're eating oysters in the chamber and drinking fine wines and grabbing the ladies or whatever it is you like. So Gary, I mean, this has to be addressed, because going forward, we've set a massive precedent going forward that this is what presidents can get away with. And the other issue, Gary, is we're also dealing with the pardon power. This is another abuse of the founding fathers I think Trump has wielded with great effectiveness, because if he's able to pardon, if he's able to say to folks, hey, I know we're breaking the law here, but don't worry, I'll throw a pardon on the way out. Just make sure you take care of me and you'll have your job. Then we need to investigate the abuse of that, and maybe Congress needs to enact legislation that addresses that. So when you're able to pardon and potentially pardon yourself, well, it makes it very easy to go out and commit the crimes, financial crimes you're going to commit. Wielding the White House, wielding the State Department and international diplomacy as well as also has to be investigated, because we're seeing our good friends and allies have potentially been compromised by the use of our economic largesse, by the use of our military protections. We need to understand to what extent our nation states around the world have been abused by this guy. How are they abused? So I think that also has to be taken into account. I mean, look what's happened in Venezuela. And we're talking about oil revenues, Gary, that have come out of Venezuela that ended up in some bank account in Qatar, or wherever the location is, and he controls that. Well, we need to understand what that looks like, right? I mean, how can he go along and decapitate a country and then all of a sudden enrich himself off of that? So these are all big questions that only a Congress with hearings and proper interrogations can bring to the light of day. So if nothing more, Gary, do we as a republic want a similar outcome potentially coming down the pike in 4 years or 2.5 years? Or do you want to check this on arrival and hold him to account? And maybe he may not do any jail time, but if anything, there could be a clawback effect. There could be a way to leverage lawsuits and judgments against his family and his corporations and floss some of that money back, particularly in the crypto area. Because I guarantee you, Gary, there's a whole lot of underhandedness that took place for that, from the pardons that he gave to former crypto czars, crypto kingpins that were out there that were brought on charges of corruption, then let go via pardon. So there's a lot there that can be examined as well. So, yeah, I think the Democrats have their work cut out for them if they take the House, particularly if they take the Senate. And I think whether they make hay or not hay, I think the American people have to understand what's happened in these last year and a half going forward. And I'll land there.
You know, Republican control of the House may be less an issue with regard to policy and more an issue with regard to exactly what we are discussing today. This may be what the president is most concerned about at this juncture of his second term. The potential embarrassments of now, they're going to, of course, attack the process as being partisan. And the process is going to be partisan. There's no question about it. But that doesn't mean that what is learned ought not to be learned necessarily. And I think he may be concerned about that.
Yeah.
You're underwater now, David.
I think we have to really pinpoint here. Is that better?
No.
Is that better?
No, we kind of lost you. Sorry, buddy. Adam, followed by Z.
I mean, I don't know what Republicans expect to happen when Democrats take office, but they spent the last 2 years owning the libs, and they've made the libs very angry. So they should expect extreme vetting, as it were, right? Like, you knew what it was when you got in office. You did Doge. You had American citizens shot in the face and left to die in the middle of the street, and then lied about them attacking the cops or the ICE agents, right? You got all this insider trading crap going on, which is fine, right? You did what you were going to do, and now it's going to be time for some payback. And people just like, you just got to be an adult about it and accept that like your actions have ramifications. That's just what it is. And I'm not going to be here for the crocodile tears, right? Like, I don't want to hear anybody crying and bitching about it, because this is the world that Donald Trump has wrought. He did not govern and does not govern for all Americans. He governs for, I mean, he doesn't really govern for his voters, but he definitely doesn't govern for people who live in blue states and blue cities, right? So you should not expect when we get into office that like it's gonna be all peaches and cream and we're gonna work together. That's not gonna happen, right? You should expect the full force of whatever power Democrats have to be used to the full extent of possibility. And you can cry about it when it happens, but like that's just like what it's gonna be. And like when you were in power, you weren't governing in a way that would lead to any other outcome but that. So accept what is going to happen, because it's going to happen, and take it like a man. Don't cry about it, right? You know, have a stiff upper lip. You know what this guy's done. You know that like your party has provided no oversight this entire time, right? And you know, it is what it is. So,
dude, that's why I said I wasn't going to give him away. I'm not going to get what I want. What I think is healthy is not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's just not.
I mean, if people wanted what was healthy, they wouldn't have been like if Republicans wanted what was healthy, they wouldn't have voted.
Yes, if people wanted what was healthy, they would have made many different decisions a very long time ago. I agree.
They had like 15 choices in the primary in 2013, and they picked Trump again, and this is what it is. So we're going to ride or die on this thing, right? We're going all the way. So don't expect it to be like it's the 1960s. It's not. You did what you did when you put Trump in office again, and we're going to do what we're going to do. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be a fight. People wanted a fight, they're going to get a fight. And the problem is they're going to get a fight with people who are actually competent, right? So they're going to get in office and they're going to be organized. Right? They're not going to have 8 dummies who don't know how to run anything. So I just like, it's very tiring when people act like, whoa, why are Democrats so mad? Of course they're mad. Like, you threw a bunch of people out of their jobs in the federal government for no reason. It's fine if you wanted to do it, right? But like, expect retribution. Why do you not expect them to get back at you? That's like kind of what tit for tat means. Like, I think there is a sense that only Democrats are supposed to be adults and be magnanimous, and Republicans get to do whatever they want to do when they're in office. Well, that's come to an end. I don't think anybody believes in the they go low, we go high stuff anymore. No, like, actual voter believes in that. That's kind of why some of these leftists are winning, right? Because people want to see some spine. They want to see some fight, right? Because when the way Republicans are behaving, especially towards people who live in major metropolitan areas, is unacceptable, especially when we make all the money, right? So there's gonna be payback for it. 100%, I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I'm not asking my representative to be nice to anybody in that administration. And they should use every tool possible to hurt those people. And then maybe next time when we go through this cycle again, maybe then they'll learn not to do the thing because there are negative ramifications to them personally after the fact. That is how it's going to go. We're not going to roll over. We're not going to be soft, because you don't get anything from Republicans by doing that, right? When you just turn the other cheek and they steal a Supreme Court seat, they just continue on forward, right? So maybe when they get punched in the face, maybe they'll learn something that time. We'll see if that works.
So as you talk, I think back to Marshall's argument about the Democrats using the congressional hearings as bully pulpits for partisan purposes. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. The biggest bully pulpit in the nation is the Oval Office. And certainly the current holder of that office, occupant of that office, uses his position for political promotion on a daily basis. So your point, I guess, extends even to that. How would anybody expect that the Democrats would respond in an apolitical manner while investigating what's been going on for the past 2 years?
I mean, I want it, but I don't expect
I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and I saw that when Moderna had their phase 3 data on a flu vaccine that was positive, the FDA under the Donald Trump administration, who had that kook, who was the head of the FDA for 5 minutes, they decided that they weren't going to review the data just because he doesn't like mRNA and Moderna, right? And they had to backpedal once people got up in arms, the business community got up in arms. But that's what we're dealing with, right? That's what we're dealing with. That's like an objective thing that happened. So
yeah. Well, I would hope that the investigations would extend to the degrading of the oversight of the food and drug industry in this country. There's not a day that goes by that we're not doing a story at work about some outbreak of some sort somewhere. Right now in Wisconsin and Minnesota, there's an outbreak of both E. coli and salmonella, and 53 people have been hospitalized, I believe.
That's because we have next to no FDA crop inspectors, and the Trump administration has made it worse.
It's horrible. What is the political argument for degrading the oversight of the safety of the food that is served to us on a daily basis?
Because it allows them to fund.
I guess
they're balancing the back of the federal government on social programs and things of that nature, and that means FDA inspectors take a hit.
Well, I would hope that would be one of the things, whether there are cameras from CNN there or not, that
investigate all of that. My point was never not to investigate. My point was just I just thought it would turn out to be a circus. But yeah, investigate it all. I mean, I'm not one of those Republicans that's going to tell you You know, what's good for the goose and good for the gander. If we wore the shoe, then the other side gets to wear the shoe whether we like it or not.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad Adam made mention of some of the FDA issues. It's a serious problem, and I want somebody held accountable for that as much as I want the people who were involved in the Epstein scandal held accountable for what they did. There's so much lack of accountability on certain levels in our society.
Isn't it crazy?
Well, yeah, I mean, we hear a drumbeat.
A prince in the UK gets it from Epstein, but nobody in America, no American person.
Right.
Would you have guessed that would have been the out?
No, Adam. And the thing is, it's just reprehensible that we cannot, we demand that the common criminal on the street be held accountable. And we complain, perhaps rightly so, about no bond policies such as we have in New York State, in which the person is turned out on the street to continue his illegal activities before the cop is through filling out the booking forms, because the person is never actually booked. They're given a notice to appear, which the cops refer to as a notice to disappear, because that's what they do. They disappear. And we demand accountability for that, and probably rightly so. But where's the accountability for high-level transgressions that go on? And I recognize there's always been a disparity in that regard in not just our society, but perhaps all societies. But whether there is a disparity or not, people are getting sick on a daily basis. How much of that is due to a reduction in the FDA staffing? I don't know. I'm concerned about the messaging on vaccinations. People are actually dying. Children are dying because parents are getting the message that the vaccinations are not all that important. And so measles, which were eradicated, we know what's going on with measles. Why are they doing this? To what end? Your job as the people we elected to put into office, meaning not just the people who are elected, but the people who are appointed by the people who are elected, is to protect the American public. That's your job. Whether it's Homeland Security, whether it's military, whether it has to do with crime, or whether it has to do with rampant expansions of diseases that are preventable, and rampant expansion of food poisonings, which in some cases are fatal, which are preventable, or if not preventable, at least mitigated. The possibilities are mitigated. That's your basic responsibility. And our government is failing in that regard, isn't it? Would anybody argue that the government right now deserves high grades in these areas?
No,
I wouldn't, but other people might, but I wouldn't.
I would not. But if I could speak, I do.
If you will, I'll get to you. Okay. I'll get to you. So I know people get frustrated because I am long-winded. That person was correct about that. Anyway, I hope that these are things that are discussed if the Democrats get control of the House, and a shame on the Republicans who have control of these oversight committees for not demanding these answers. You can argue all you want that the Democrats will be grandstanding, but the silence of the Republicans is a partisan issue as well. They are silent for partisan reasons. So their own constituents die because the party has to come first. So if the Democrats are doing it in order to call votes in future elections, at least by doing so, they're trying to, I think, right some wrongs that are going on in government in the process. I don't know if that makes sense, and I'm happy to be challenged for my observations. Thank you, Adam. Great contribution. Z followed by C.
Yeah, so I've got 3 points. So the one point that was brought up, it was speaking about the pardon of the CEO of Binance, which is a cryptocurrency that's actually essentially more like a multi-nation corporation. My first question is, why would Donald Trump do that? And then also allow him to invest into his own meme coins. And the real thing about his meme coins is that they actually don't serve a purpose. Usually, what actually needs to be seen in the cryptocurrency space is that it would have some type of function. It did not have a function. And they've already showed that he made $200 million off of that. The second thing I will say is that when we're looking at this Iran war, who actually benefits off of it? And that's something also we need to see. Also, my third thing will be like this. We have Howard Lutnick, who is a Secretary of Commerce. He openly lied about his and excuse me, I'm sorry, my throat's kind of parched. He openly lied about his interaction with Epstein. And then when the Epstein files came out, it showed that he actually went to Epstein's house multiple times, then also went to Epstein's island. The real question is, why are no Republicans or Democrats actually looking into this type of stuff?
Because the number one thing on Americans' minds is affordability, not Epstein. It's fallen by the wayside.
I understand what you're saying, but that's also a Republican talking point. Because if you actually...
No, it's not. The places where Democrats have done the best, they talked about the economy. They didn't talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, but
Jeffrey
also,
Epstein was like a tertiary issue.
Here's I understand exactly what you're talking about. But when you start to pull back the layers, you actually understand that everything that's going on with that situation, and it'd be connected to Netanyahu and about how there are different ways.
This doesn't have anything to do with Israel.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what?
There are no facts and evidence. There are no facts and evidence that show that the Epstein, the people who dropped their pants on that island, were there at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu. For God's sake, this was going on long before Bibi Netanyahu was even prime minister of Israel. That's ridiculous. However, I would say that the argument, Marshall, that the people are more concerned with the economy, which is true, is not a reason to ignore what happened. I say, as I've said many times in the past, I want to know who the men were who dropped their
I'm not saying you ignore it. I want to know it too. I'm just saying on most Americans' priority lists, it's like number 3. It's not number 1 or 2. If they're told about their greatest issue, they're gonna say something about the economy, probably, right? And Epstein, while valuable, will ultimately take a back seat to that primary concern.
Yeah, it might, but that's not an excuse for them to let it be taken back.
No, I mean, don't take.
You're underwater, Marshall.
It's not.
I can't hear you, Marshall. You're underwater. Sorry, buddy. You're underwater. Anyway, I actually called Z before C, but that's okay. Z followed by David.
Hey there, guys. I'm just pulling into my driveway, so I hope you can hear me. And
your
yeah,
driveway is a better place to transmit to us than wherever Marshall is right now, unfortunately.
I know sometimes it sounds like he's playing that. I don't know what to call it. Something you put in your mouth, you twang it. Anyhow, I remember that from when I was a kid. But anyhow, I'm just going to keep it. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks, Gary, and thank you to everybody who shared. And hello, friends down there listening and learning like me. And I hope that hope that Trump is investigated on. I think it's David maybe that I listened to, and I kind of. Agree with David with no matter what he seems to say. I kind of agree in that level. I just say that, people are really upset right now, and that's an understatement. And there's a lot of people right now suffering in the state of Massachusetts. And I heard today it's going to get worse. And these are like things that are affecting people who are senior citizens and other populations on fixed or no income, stuff like that. I know I'm a little bit off base, but I would like to have things like AI and the rollout of AI and the stealing and the selling of our data. That's just insanity. So now I've got another letter that my medical stuff is all over the internet. Like it's bizarre. So, and other things are happening about how you pay bills and who can look into your bank account. And this is all stuff that really is concerning to me. And I hope that he's investigated. I also hope that there are Democrats who are also investigated. I do believe that, it took both parties to get us here. And Trump was, like an oil can who lit the match on himself. And if anybody here cares about the food system, which is not doing well, there's agriculture discussion here on Clubhouse quite often where you'll learn about what's going on with that stuff in the FDA, which is not fun. And this is why our people are sick from eating bad foods. I know this goes on a lot and it happens a lot, but it just seems like either I'm watching too much news or people are getting weird diseases and sicknesses from insects and foods and stuff like this. And the vaccines is a whole nother topic. So there needs to be a lot of investigation, but he's at the top of my list. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, guys.
Comment about your medical records being leaked.
Oh, yeah. It's a shame.
Your comment about that may, on the face of it, seem to be off topic, but if you really look into it, many major data leaks
Absolutely.
are actually tied to shortcomings in government oversight. There have been warnings. There have been warnings about that. There have actually been, since we're talking about congressional investigations, there have been congressional investigations into incidents of data leaks. Now, primarily within the federal government, I recognize. But there was a huge leak, if you'll recall, of the personnel information of government workers. And the investigation by Congress, and I can't recall whether there were cable news network cameras there during those investigations or not, but those investigations did conclude that the agency leaders repeatedly disregarded warnings and recommendations from their own inspectors general. So the government is not doing a good job. There are regulatory gaps.
Fuck me.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll move on.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Someone just almost hit me with a car. Sorry about that. I didn't know I was unmiked.
Yeah. Say 3 Hail Marys.
Apologies, everybody. I didn't know I was unmiked. I almost not a great Philly driver.
So always remember that the microphone is open, even when it's
I
not.
didn't even know how I was unmiked. That's crazy.
And also, the same goes for a gun. Always presume the gun is loaded.
That's Gary. No, that's sage advice. That's sage advice on both points.
Thank you. And I'm glad you're safe. I didn't hear F me crash. That would have been much worse. Thank you, Z. You're absolutely spot on. David, is your microphone working properly now, David?
I hope so. Can you hear me? Yeah. Is that better?
A little bit.
Yeah, so I think what I was going to attempt to say, or my mic got all messed up, was, part of this activity by Trump and his administration is in broad daylight, obviously challenging and impacting the transparency and the rule of law that this great nation has come to rely upon and to operate under. One of the reasons we're the great safe haven of the world for money and investments and reserve currency status is because our laws work and because we have transparency and because when a company discloses what they've made, you can invest in that stock with accuracy, with some level of accuracy, because they're beholden to shareholders. Well, under Trump, he's run afoul of a lot of these norms and strictures, which undermines this credibility component of our government, our country. There's a reason we say we're different and we're better than the Russians and even the Chinese, even the other dictators around the world, is because we have the rule of law. Ronald Reagan, I have a great quote in my profile about Reagan talking about how every 4 years we elect a new president. And it's an absolute miracle to most countries that we're able to do that without, except for the January 6th event, without violence or retribution. So Trump is really, say what you want, but he's done, hopefully not irreversible damage to our good name and to the things that make up what America is. And I think more than anything, I think that's why investigations will continue, not because they're looking to grandstand or make hay, but because we have an obligation to this nation and what it stands for to do that very thing. I mean, even Ronald Reagan, I remember watching my first government hearings coming out of high school, the Iran-Contra affair, and I was just blown away by this great statesman in Reagan and all of these allegations with these generals and Oliver North. And man, I was glued to that. I mean, there was hardly any distractions back then. There were no phones. And I was watching a United States president. I mean, I was too young for the whole Nixon administration stuff, but this was absolute to me. And then I took a class which actually talked about what had happened during the Contra affair. But this is part of our civic duty, and the fact that we have media today to broadcast that, to broadcast how our processes work, and that we have safeguards and we have challenges within our system of checks and balances to do that very thing. I think that's very important going forward. And so that's all I wanted to say on that, and I'll land there. One other thing I wanted to say was, Gary, with regard to the Doge and with regard to the defanging of all these federal jobs. Well, one thing that Trump did, which was massively impacting our ability to generate revenue, is he gutted the IRS and he clawed back the $80 billion that Biden had legislated for them to receive, to go after the very billionaires and trillionaires of this country to make sure they pay their fair share. Well, that's been absolutely gutted. And I feel bad for Marshall and his family, in fact, that they were audited. But there's so much thievery and money that's being stolen in the light of day, it's absolutely impacting our ability to generate revenue and cover our costs as a nation. So that's the other aspect.
That wasn't so much my point. My point was, like, getting, like, not wanting to be audited does not mean you've committed a crime, which was the claim.
Oh yeah, no, I
claim
get that. I get that. Absolutely.
But that's not David who normally gets audited, by the way. I mean, interestingly enough, if you look at who gets audited, and the highest percentage, it's actually a lot of the tipped employees are one of the highest categories of audits. And if you look at it, it really affects a lot more of the middle class that were subject to audits. I mean, those numbers are discoverable. So I'm going to push back on what you said.
Has the expertise and the same level of firepower on their side, they're not going to be able to collect anything, right? Particularly if they don't have the manpower.
Well,
So
they had the manpower. He just wanted to increase it by what, 80,000 agents? It's like,
Abby, some of the reports that came out, the talent that the IRS needed was woefully lacking to be able to hold many of these corporations and wealthy individuals to account. And I don't have a way to post it in here, but no, we're talking billions and billions of dollars that aren't collected every year. And there's government oversight agencies that report on this unless Trump has gutted those agencies to provide that information. Right. So, look, he's not a fan of paying taxes. He's not a fan of being audited. I get that.
So, according to the latest information from analysis by the Tax Policy Center, it's kind of U-shaped. Ultra high earners.
The Chinese are just licking their chops with the amount of money they're spending.
David, you're dropping packets. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I thought you were through, and I was responding to you, thinking that you were through.
Okay.
So, according to the Tax Policy Center, it's kind of a U-shaped thing where ultra high earners on one end of the U shape and low income taxpayers who claim specific tax credits on the other end are most audited. The middle class wage earners actually face the lowest audit risk of any population. This is according to the Tax Policy Center. I want to take a quick look at the discussion that we've been having about the degrading of regulatory agencies during this administration. And according to the American Bar Association of all groups, the Trump administration, they analyze, has systematically targeted dozens of independent and executive regulatory agencies. They say, and this is a widespread, I don't know where they come up with these numbers, I'd have to delve into it more to have a greater understanding, but what they say is that at least 13 to 24 key agencies have faced severe disruptions to their core oversight. Now, some of that oversight might have been a waste and unfair regulatory pressure on industries, but clearly when it comes to things like the FDA and what's getting into our food chain lately, there is cause for concern. Abby?
Well, just respond to that he made a promise to the electorate that the majority of the nation elected him to drain the swamp. And the swamp was full of bureaucrats and maybe too many bureaucrats. And, I don't think he did anything different than what he promised he was going to do and clear that out. I also think that with the Supreme Court rulings in the West Virginia case and the overturning of the Chevron, I think you see less of a need or the shifting of regulation back to Congress and away from some of these agencies. So it may be that he was trimming fat, I mean, I see the ramifications of it in some of these agencies, but I also see a lot of the fat and the pork that needed to be trimmed. So I think you have to look at it both ways.
Yes.
Just a question. I mean, I get the trimming of things, and look, people voted Republican, and that's smaller government, absolutely. And elections have consequences. But how is it draining the swamp when you're firing all the inspector generals? Like, you're firing the people that are the regulatory people. They're supposed to sort of keep the swamp clean. I mean, that strikes me as not a drain the swamp move. I mean, that strikes me as, and all the crypto stuff and everything. The thing, I mean, I think most Americans, and I saw a poll today, a majority of Americans, 60-some percent, 67%, or close to 70, think that Trump's business dealings right now are inappropriate, the crypto stuff and everything. I mean, that all seems really, really swampy, right? I mean, it just, so I mean, I see on one level, yeah, the drain of the swamp with the sort of look, get rid of of some of the fat. And again, people voted Republican. That's I expect that. But gosh, wouldn't it look a lot better if there wasn't so much appearance of evil at every corner? Wouldn't the credibility of drain the swamp seem stronger?
I'm not negating that. I'm just saying, I mean, I think they're two different things. And I'm not praising his business dealings. I'm just saying that he kept his promise about cutting the fat in government. And perhaps in those inspectors, some of them may have been political appointees. They're you probably have to look at case by case on some of these people. And it is a new regime coming in, that it's a Republican one that is changing who's in these positions. And that's his power to do, is running the executive branch. But my point was responding to Gary that, there may have been too much in these agencies, and agencies like the Department of Education that he's trimmed, that, is an example of a promise he made during the election. And people voted for that. So like it or not, that's what he said.
Yeah, my big concern is the food chain right now, because I don't think you were here when I mentioned it before, Abby. There's not a day that goes by that we don't do a story about some outbreak of food poisoning or problem with things that people consume across the country, and that's unusual. You get a couple a year, or maybe a dozen a year in normal years, but now it's on a daily basis. Now, whether there's a causation here to deregulation, I don't know, but I do know it's happening with greater frequency, and I find it quite disturbing.
Do you think it was a trajectory that was happening for quite some time? I mean, remember the sort of the surge of these films, Forks Before Knives, or I think was one, I can't remember the exact name of it. They were films about, that actually turned people off of eating meat for a while. There was a number of these sort of documentary expose films coming out about our food processing. I actually know that one of our bigger properties in my city put vegan or put non-meat on every menu in the hotel because the founder of the hotel watched one of those movies and flipped out about how meat processing happens. So, I mean, and that was during the Obama years when those films came out. So, I mean, I'm wondering if we've been on a trajectory of these problems before Trump came in.
We might have been. I just think that those films should have increased regulation of the slaughterhouses rather than decrease. Now, I don't know that it has, but I'm just using it as an example. I have no way of knowing whether slaughterhouse inspections have decreased or not. But some of the stuff that we are getting that is unsafe to eat is produced here in the United States. The latest one that we reported on overnight was in Wisconsin and Minnesota, alfalfa sprouts of all things, causing both E. coli and salmonella poisoning in people in those two states. But a lot of it's coming from Mexico. And when I was married, my wife is my ex-wife. She's Mexican American, and we were down in Mexico visiting with family, and her cousin was, for a period of time, a federal food inspector, and he was routinely, they routinely attempted to bribe him to approve meat for consumption that was not healthy to be approved. And he actually had his life threatened for adhering to the standards as they appeared in the statutes. So I don't know how much stuff is coming in from Mexico. I think recently there was a problem with the avocados, some of the avocados, not all of the avocados, coming from Mexico. And I don't know how much of that is the result of a reduction in monitoring by U.S. ag inspectors. I don't know of the process. I'm not familiar enough with the process, but I can tell you it's happening on a routine basis. I use the term daily, and that's probably not fair. But I can use the term routinely. It's on a routine basis that we're doing stories such as that. And that's not been the case in the past.
Gary, I asked ChatGPT
yes.
about that, and it said that if you're asking whether foodborne illness has been worse under Biden or Trump's second term, the data so far points toward a serious deterioration during 25, 26 in some areas. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's really important information because obviously I am expressing what I know anecdotally. I've done no analysis of this, but I can tell you anecdotally, I see a problem. It could have been that I was wrong, that it's just that it's being reported now more than it had in the past. But apparently based on what you're saying, my observations are not far off.
And my point is those films like it was Food Inc. and Forks Over Knives and Fat Stick and Nearly Dead, they all came out during the Obama years.
Right, but here's the ironic part about it. They were talking about meat, and lately a lot of the foodborne illnesses come from vegetables. So when I told my mom I didn't want to eat the vegetables, maybe I wasn't so far off. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. New York time. So until 5 p.m. New York time on Monday for the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, have a great weekend, and peace out.